Hello again. So I did promise that in this video I would share some of my fishing adventures, or not fishing adventures so much as just aquatic adventures in general. And I have lots, but I will share two in particular that I thought were kind of cool. So relatively recently, I went with my dad and we went shark diving. And this is kind of a story intended to sound a little crazy because it's fun, but know that it is really rather safe and that it wasn't as bad as it sounds at first. But I do intentionally kind of twist it a little bit so that it sounds a little bit more hectic and crazy and hairy because it's fun and I enjoy doing that. And it's really not all that big of a deal, but it is kind of cool to tell. So if you've ever actually interacted with sharks, you know that they are at once very humblingly powerful and kind of coldly killer-like, and at the same time very calm and pretty much not interested in eating you at all. But we went out about 9 miles off of the coast, and we dumped some meat and blood over the side and put over a bucket full of fish guts and things. And we waited for about an hour until we started seeing sharks circling our boat. And then we did the only sensible thing and donned our wetsuits, grabbed a piece of rope and some PVC pipe, and jumped in with them. and, and it was very cool. And so usually that's the reverse order of things. Generally, you're in the water and then you see sharks and you jump out of the water as quickly as possible. We saw the sharks and hopped in to join them. And so these were very cool sharks. They were, the name is eluding me at the time. They were not white or black tip. I think they were Pacific blues. And they were very, very cool. It was serene in a way, right? So when you're under the water, you can still hear stuff, but it's a different sort of sound. And so there were two at any one time. I think at some points there were like four kind of circling, but you only saw two at a time. I only recall seeing two at a time. And it's funny, the first one we saw was actually a baby. And it was maybe 3 feet long, so it looked really cute. You know, it was just like this little shark that we saw in the water, and we were like, oh, well, we'll hop in and look at it. And then once we hopped in, they were like, oh, yeah, there's an adult around, I think, 7 feet long or so coming around. Enjoy that, you know, look at it, and if she comes too close to you to touch you and see what you're made of, you know, give her a nice gentle nudge with your PVC pipe. These were round edges, so they weren't going to hurt the shark, and just kind of very gently guide her away. And it felt like you were guiding a missile away from your core, like a heat-seeking missile away from your core. And they put the person on the end of the rope that was least panicky, right? Who felt least scared. And I've grown up fishing for sharks and catching them and tagging them or releasing them. And I'm not particularly scared of them so much as understanding that they need to be respected and kind of treated as such. So I was put on the end, and this is not for a lack of fear so much as an ability to remain calm, knowing that these creatures are dangerous. You know, they are somewhat dangerous, but I think that we psych ourselves out more than is necessary. And I think we're also a little more egotistical than we realize, where these sharks are not trying to eat you just to kill you. They're looking for food at a low cost, right? And you're pretty big, you're a high-cost food, and they aren't sure what you are. So a lot of times I think that they're curious. They want to find out what you're made of. And unfortunately, no hands. So, I mean, they do have fins, but they don't reach out with their fins. They reach out with their face and with the teeth attached. And so it was definitely a kind of humbling experience. I also realized these creatures are very well designed. And I say designed, they are very well evolved for their environments. So you feel very out of place, right? You can't see the bottom. If you look down, there could very well be lots and lots of other creatures down there, and you have no idea. Every once in a while, you might see a glimpse of something, but you can't be sure if it's your eyes playing tricks on you and your own kind of adrenaline fooling you, or if it really was some large creature. And what you can be sure of is that there is a 7 to 9 foot long shark coming straight at you, and you see its two eyes, and you see nothing in them. There's no spark. There's no real life. They don't move really. They just stare, and it feels like you're going to die. At least I looked into those eyes and felt cold. nothing else. It was an interesting sensation. And then you realize, too, that these sharks, from head on, they're actually kind of hard to see. They're designed. They look like they were designed well, and even from the top or the bottom, they're fairly difficult to see until they're pretty close to you. Once they're close, you can see them a lot easier. And there were quite a few times where you'd kind of guide the shark. The shark's head would be kind of like here, and you'd take your PVC and just gently move it to the side. They aren't particularly fast moving. They're kind of circling. Some of them would bite at the engine every once in a while, although our engine was actually out of the water. And then they would, of course, attack the bucket of bloody meat and fish sitting in front of us. And we could see that bucket. It was not out of sight at any one point. And generally, they would attack it and give it a good biting. There were lots of scratches across this bucket. And you got to see a good display of teeth there, too. And you could see their teeth when they were swimming towards you as well. It was a little unnerving. It was very unnerving. There were a lot of people that actually hopped out. I think my dad hopped out shortly before I did. I was the last one out because I was on the end of the line, but I stayed in for quite some time, and there were 2 other people, I think, in with me. And we stayed there and observed these just kind of gorgeous and majestic, but also humblingly powerful creatures as we sat there. And you're not, you know, if they were to turn around and attack you, your PVC pipe would do very little good. So I think that it is a mutual understanding that I'm not worth you eating me, and you, please don't attack me. I said mutual understanding. I meant more of a trust that this creature will not hurt you. And that is somewhat foolish, I think, at a topical level, but also an informed trust, where I know that it is not worth their time or effort, and that there is an easier target nearby. Also that they're not naturally aggressive kinds of sharks. In my next video, I will talk about a time that I accidentally swam with a shark, not an informed sort of naivety, and it was a much more dangerous kind of shark in the sense that it was much more aggressive. I am still alive, and I have no scars or any missing limbs or toes or fingers to show from the encounter, so it wasn't too bad. But hopefully that was a relatively enjoyable story, and I'll see you next time.